Hey y'all, it's Mary Hyatt, and I am so excited you're here for this month's topic, which is all about body confidence. So, most people think you're either born with confidence or you're not. But the good news is, I am going to show you that that is simply not true. This month, we're going to explore what it's like to live confidently in your body, no matter your shape, your size, your age, your weight. It is going to be good. So, what do you say? Let's hop into it.
Welcome to the Living Fully Alive podcast with Mary Hyatt, here to help you find your authentic voice, learn how to love yourself, and embrace your life. And now, your host, life and mindset coach, body love advocate, and doTERRA Presidential Diamond, Mary Hyatt.
Hey y'all, it is Mary, and I am so excited about today's episode because I get to talk with my BFF, Amy Porterfield. We have such a powerful conversation around this month's topic of body confidence. And if you know anything about Amy, she is one of the most genuine people, and we have gotten to share a lot of our journey towards more body love and acceptance together, and constantly are having conversations about this. And I was like, I've got to get Amy on for this month, just for our monthly candid conversation with one of my dear friends. So Amy, she's just amazing. I have to read her official bio because I really want to give her all of the praise that is hers, because she is just unbelievably powerful as a female entrepreneur. And Amy, if you don't know her, is an online marketing expert, and she has one of the top ranked podcasts. It's called Online Marketing Made Easy. Make sure you go and subscribe. But before building her multi-million-dollar digital course business, Amy worked with, y'all know, my little crush, peak performance coach, Tony Robbins, where she oversaw the content team and collaborated on groundbreaking online marketing campaigns. And through her best-selling courses and popular podcast, Amy's action by action approach proves that even the newest online entrepreneurs can bypass the overwhelm and instead generate exciting momentum as they build a business they love. You will fall in love with her the minute you listen to her, the minute you check out her podcast. So without further ado, here is my conversation with Amy Porterfield. Hey guys, it is Mary, and you guys, this is going to be such a fun episode. I love bringing on my friends to the podcast. Y'all know I usually have Lindsley. I've had Bentley on. Last month I had my mom on, and I was like, okay, who is the person that I want to come on to talk about some element of body confidence? And I was like, all right, Amy, you got to be here. So I'm so excited you're going to have this conversation. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm a little nervous about the whole thing. This conversation, no matter what, brings up like butterflies for me every single time, but I'm getting more comfortable by the minute. So I'm glad we're talking about it.
Well, and that's kind of why I wanted to talk to you about it, because I feel like you have been stepping out in this topic in a really big way. Like, you just launched your Talking Body podcast, which is different than your typical Online Marketing Made Easy podcast. So will you tell us a little bit about the Talking Body podcast? Because I think that that's fascinating that you in and of itself, agreed to do that. How did that even come about?
Most of my friends, including you, are like, what's going on there? So what happened was, I am friends with Rachel Hollis, and we went on this girls trip, and we were stuck in a car for a long time, started talking about everything and life, business, and everything in between. And I shared with her about my insecurities around my weight. And there was just something I said in that conversation around, I feel like I would be so much more successful if I was thinner. And I feel like I could do so much more. And I talked to her about my insecurities of wanting to get on video and how much it holds me back and all of that. And she just looked at me and she's like, that's a podcast. And I'm like, wow. Are you crazy? I don't want to talk about that publicly. She's like, that's a podcast. Fast forward a year later, and she said, do you want to do a limited time series on my podcast production with my podcast production company called Talking Body, where you interview people for 12 episodes and you explore this idea of body acceptance, body love, body positivity as a student though, not as a teacher.
Yeah.
So when you invited me on your show, I was like, I hope you know that we're just going to chat, right? Like I can't be an expert in any of this because I struggle with it every day. And so that's what Talking Body is. It's very similar to the conversation we're going to have here. And it's been really eye-opening.
Well, and I've listened to a few episodes and I love it because number one, the production is like amazing. It just is so fun as a listener to listen to.
Chelsea, shout out. She's amazing.
So good. Yeah. And what I love about it, and there's been 5 episodes that have launched so far, 5 or 6?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So what I love about that is like every episode is taking a different angle on this idea of learning how to be in relationship with your body, whether you're a mother, whether you're a plus size woman, you're a woman of color. Like there's just so many different ways that you kind of attack this topic of the body. And I love that you're doing it because as your friend, like I know we have conversations literally every day. We're on text talking about our body. We're talking about food. We're talking about like all the things that we struggle with. And I'm just remembering this episode that you did on your personal podcast. This was probably 2 or 3 years ago now, maybe, where you like stepped out in a really vulnerable way. And I want you to talk about that podcast because that was a real turning moment, I feel like, for you in your willingness to admit that you didn't love your body so much. So bring the audience up to speed on that kind of like breaking out episode.
Yeah. So I have a podcast about marketing and that's all I ever talk about. And that's my area of expertise. And I just got this desire to create a podcast episode that shared with people why I'm ashamed to do video. And so that was like the title of the podcast, Why I Hate Video. Yeah. And I had to script it, like literally write a script, which was not my style. I usually went off the cuff. It was 8 minutes long. Usually they're 45 minutes. And I got on audio and said, I have to tell you that I'm very embarrassed about my weight. I'm very, very self-conscious about how I look. And that's the reason why I don't want to do video. It's not like I can't figure out the tech or anything like that. It's, I don't want you to see me. And I'm afraid that if you see me and you know I'm overweight, you won't think that I am an expert. You won't take me as seriously as you might somebody who looks like they've got it all together. Because in my head, if you're thin, you've got it all together. Now, I know that's not true, but that's where I live sometimes. And so for 8 minutes, I talked about this and I wanted to die talking about the whole thing. But the reason I did it is I wanted to put down some of the shame. Like I felt shame and I thought maybe if I put some words to it, other women could relate and men. And also I put it out there so it's not so much of a dirty secret. No, it's not a secret. You could see me. If you saw my whole body, you'd know I'm a bigger woman. But I just felt like it was a secret until I said it.
Well, I think it's so brave because I think that anybody who would look at you and you're wildly successful, no one would imagine that you would have this insecurity. Like, and I think that's true. I think we just do that for everyone. Like anyone that you see that's out there in the public light, whether that's an actress or successful entrepreneur, an author, whomever, we really assume unfairly that their lives are number one, perfect, that they have all of their shit together and that they like feel really satisfied with themselves, with their body, like no matter what their size is. And I think it was really brave for you to like, in a sense, expose yourself. I mean, sort of like literally and figuratively, like here is something that I deal with. And here's something that I struggle with because you teach people that, hey, get on camera, teach your expertise, charge for this amazing course that you create. You know, people are having that issue of being afraid to be on camera. Like that's got to come up all the time.
All the time. Yes. So I thought this is a good way to serve, and support, meaning I know I'm not alone in this.
Yeah. It's one of those things that like, I don't care how often you do it. Like it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter like how good your lighting is, how good your camera is. There's always that like, okay, what am I portraying? Are people going to take me seriously? Just all that insecurity creeps up. The shame creeps up. And, it's interesting because like hearing you talk about this is so wild to me. And I just like want to, as your friend, like get behind the curtain a little bit. Cause I'm like, okay, I want to share something you told me before, that every day you shower with your husband. Like you have this amazing big shower and y'all shower together. And I know before when you lived in California, y'all like skinny dipped all the time. And I'm like, how is the woman who can like be naked in front of her husband every single day still have these insecurities? Like walk me through that, because it doesn't compute in my brain.
I feel like I'm getting bright red right now. You told me you were going to talk about that I take showers with my husband, but it still makes me embarrassed to talk about it publicly.
Sorry, Hobie.
To be clear, sorry, babe. To be clear, we moved from California to Nashville. Mary and her family is one of the reasons why I'm here, because I want to be part of their family and I love them all dearly. And the house we bought, you're right, has this huge shower and 2 shower heads. And I'm like, I always wanted a sexy shower like that. So you are right. And in California, we'd skinny dip in our pool all the time. And so I think because I'm not comfortable. Okay. So let's be clear about this.
Yeah.
In the shower, I am thinking of my thighs. I am thinking of this man I've been married to 12 years. Is he thinking, holy cow, she has cellulite? I still think that. I don't care if he tells me every day how beautiful I am. And he does. Yeah. It's crazy, but I'm still thinking of it. So it's not like I'm footloose and fancy for him and running around naked. I'm thinking of it, but I also, what's more important than me being self-conscious of my body is me being super connected to my husband. And I want him to feel like he can have all of me, and I want to feel that way with him. And so if I didn't indulge in that way, I know I'd always have a barrier up. So it's in the back of my mind, but I let it go enough that I can still be present with him. I'd love to say I don't even think about it.
Well, I think that's actually a really powerful point to the whole thing. It's like, as you're talking about it, my like woo-woo self is like, this is a spiritual practice. Like to feel insecure and still show up and let yourself be seen. I mean, ultimately, there's no other way to get to intimacy except with that. Like whether that means literally being naked or emotionally being naked or mentally being naked or spiritually being naked or whatever, there's this element of, even in my imperfection, I'm willing to let someone else in and let someone see me, imperfect, flaws, cellulite and all. And I mean, I had to tell you, like, to this day, that is hard for me. I spent so many years like avoiding a full length mirror. Like, I mean, when I was married to my ex-husband, we didn't own a full length mirror. Like it wasn't not even, it's crazy. Like I wouldn't even look at myself naked, like my whole body, let alone let him see me naked. And I remember I love to take baths, and I would take baths, and sometimes he would come in and like sit by the bath and want to have a conversation. And when I tell you, I was mortified. Like I would put a wash rag on my breast and mostly my stomach, because I was really ashamed of my stomach. And to this day, it is very hard for me. Yesterday, I took a shower and I opened up the curtain and Bentley was like right there. And I had to like take a deep breath. And I was like, it's okay. It's okay that I'm being seen right now. Yes. And like forget that we had like sex the day before. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't know. There's something about like in your natural state.
Yes.
That is so vulnerable.
It's so vulnerable. And I love you sharing that, because you do this work, like you live in this world and you still have those thoughts and feelings. And I know this has been said before, but it sure makes me feel good to know, okay, even people that are, you have a more elevated sense and experience of this than I do, and you still feel it. So it doesn't go away, but what do you do with it? And I think, I built my entire business by showing up, even though I'm scared and uncomfortable and all of that. Right. This is how I do life. So it just makes sense that I do it in my marriage as well. But Mary, I have to tell you, I sure wish that when I was with Hobie naked in the shower, I wasn't thinking of my freaking thighs. I'd like to get to a place that I'm not.
Do you feel like there's ever a point where that isn't part of the conversation in your mind? Or is it always like background chatter?
Great point. I think just in the initial beginning, it is. Once
Yeah.
we are, I want to be clear. We're like chatting about the morning in the shower. It's not all sexy time every morning.
Right.
I don't have that marriage. So we're like talking about our day and stuff. So my mind starts to wander. I'm listening to him tell a silly story or whatever. And yeah, it does go away. And the more I do it, because this is new to us, this house and all, the more comfortable it is, the less I think about the insecurities. So I think it's a practice, doing it over and over again.
Yeah, totally. Well, and I think too, even when you shift your focus, like when you're hyper focused in that beginning moment of your thighs or your cellulite or whatever, and then you shift your focus to whatever else is happening in the conversation, then you kind of take that hyper focus that's on your body and you go into being in the present moment, being in the actual conversation. And to me, that's kind of, at least my experience, having done this work for quite a while now, that's the journey. It's like starting with that insecurity and then sort of working yourself to, if I don't just sit here and focus on and ruminate in the self-hatred or the self-judgment or the shame or whatever it might be, if I can kind of almost like snap myself out of it and focus over here and focus on something else, all of a sudden, when we get into the present moment, there's like so much there. There's so much like joy, the conversation, the playfulness, the pleasure, whatever it is. But I think it requires that in an odd sense, like distracting our mind and start focusing on something else, if that makes sense.
I agree. And would you agree that for me, I also feel very safe with him? I grew up with a mom that my dad made comments about my mom's weight my whole life, to her, not when the kids were around, but she shared it with me when I got older. And so she always felt insecure about her body around my dad. Hope never said a word negative about my body. So some women might be listening like, I could never, because maybe they have a partner that has said things about their weight. And I that wouldn't be safe for me. So I do think there's that as well.
Totally. I completely agree. And honestly, like that experience really does start with yourself. Like, I think that idea of being willing to see yourself, it has to start in that place. Because for me, if I can't look at myself naked in front of the mirror, I am not going to let somebody else see myself. And if we think about the idea of like safety, am I safe to be with myself? Like, how often are we looking at our own selves in the mirror, making comments about our weight, judging this or that? All of a sudden, like me and me and me, that's an abusive relationship. Like, that's not a safe place to go. And I feel like that has to be healed first, because then I can kind of walk into a situation with Bentley, or even just like getting in a bathing suit in front of friends or something like that, to where it's going, I've already sort of had this conversation with myself. I'm willing to stand in my love. And sometimes it's not even love. I would say like the willingness to accept myself like as is. Then I can let somebody else see me. But I think it starts with the willingness to see yourself, which I'm curious, do you get ready naked, or do you get ready in like in a robe, broad underwear? Like, what's that process like for you?
Great question. So my weight is up right now from where it was, let's say, before Corona.
Yeah.
And
as is everyone.
Right. So when I felt better about my body, and Mary knows, like she said, we text every day and talk about this stuff like intentionally. But when I felt better about myself, I would, if I was alone, I would get ready naked. And if Hobie was coming in, I would have a towel around me. I don't feel totally comfortable just like naked everywhere with him in the room. So, but now, because I'm feeling self-conscious about my weight gain, I'll usually get dressed and then I'll put my makeup on and do my hair. So I didn't even know that, but I just went, because you asked that. How about you? What do you do?
You know, it's funny because when I got divorced and I had all this body shame for so many years in my marriage, I remember going to, like, when we were separated, I went to Florida and I spent a month there, and I had a condo that I had rented, and I made it my practice to get ready naked every single day, which I'd never done because, again, we didn't have any mirror that was like below the collarbone. so the condo that I was staying in was like, full length mirror over the sinks. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do this as a practice. Cause I was really wanting to learn how to look at myself and say, I love you. Like look in my own eyes and do this mirror work. And I was practicing this Louise Hay work of mirror work and saying kind things to yourself. And it was really emotional for me, honestly. Like every day I was like, ugh, like, can I really do this? And since then, I'm a little bit like you. Like when I'm a little bit lower weight, I'm more apt to doing it. And I think when I was in that practice, it was easier. I've gotten out of that practice and I don't really get ready naked that often anymore. Like I actually do feel a little bit more self-conscious, and I know that I'm out of practice. Like I know if I could go back to that mirror work and just start seeing myself more regularly, more often, I think that would shift and I'd be like, oh, right. I don't have to be scared of my body or be afraid somebody else might see my body. And same with you and Hobie, like Bentley so loves me, loves my body. There's no judgment there. He probably doesn't even notice half the time, And so for me, it really is like, this is a relationship. My relationship to my body is between me and me, and whatever I might project out isn't really the issue at all, actually.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Gosh, there's like so many things I want to ask you and get into, but I remember you sharing this story on Talking Body about the company that you worked with that was going to give you your word for was it your year or for your business?
Yeah.
And can you share this? Because I think this is like, I want to get into this topic, but I want you to like introduce it first.
Okay. So I spent a lot of money going to Colorado, meeting with this woman who's an expert at helping you find your word, which is really for your business, like what your business was all about, and what you are all about. And it's kind of like taking your whole message and pulling it all together into one word. And at the time, after 2 days of working with her, you leave with your word. So I'm like, this is great. I can't wait. It's kind of like finding yourself a little bit. I go there, I work with her for 2 full days. It's like agonizing. She's asking stories. You're telling her your whole life story and why you got into business and what you do. And there's words everywhere on this board. You go home, you go to bed, you come back, you do it again the next day. Sheesh. So I come back, for the second day, and I sit down, she's like, I have your word. I'm like, already? I thought we had like this whole second day to go through. I'm so excited. You have my word. She said, I do. Your word is big. And I'm not going to cuss, but I did say the F word. I said, F, no, it's not. That is not, I didn't pay you to tell me my word is big. Everything about that word, I hated.
So triggering.
Yeah. So triggering.
Well, because I mean, and the truth is, no matter how you were raised, like the messaging that we get as women is to be small and oftentimes to be quiet, just to essentially like shrink yourself physically, vocally, and every which way, to just be small, to be tiny. And so the thought of being big, oh my God. I mean, it's just like conjures up for me that idea of being too much, that idea of being too like, even like in the body, like to be big in your body, there's this connotation that we have that it's too much. Oh man, that would have been hard for me too, honestly.
It was horrible. And I said, why would you ever choose that word? I've worked my whole life to be smaller. I don't want to be too much. I don't want to take up too much space. It's funny, even though I run a business and I'm on stage and doing the things, I don't necessarily want to always be the center of attention either. So I don't like anything about that word. Even saying it now, I feel like, I know, I need to tell you, like, that's not my word. And she said, you've worked so hard to be smaller, but it's your time to make a bigger presence, to step up and do big things and not be afraid. She said, it is your time to be big. And I'm like, but I'm trying to lose weight. I don't understand. She's like, no. A bigger presence, make a bigger splash, have a bigger voice. And so I left there totally mad at her, but then I started playing around with the word. I started saying, hey, what would this look like? And this idea that I kept hearing in my back of my head, you're a big deal. you're a big deal.
Mm.
And then I started looking at my students and I started to say, you know, you're a big deal, right? And they look at me like, no, what do you mean? I'm like, oh, wait, I think we're all a big deal. So it became this like motto that I used for years. You're a big deal. I'm a big deal. Let's prove how we are. So it served me well, but it was crazy how that word triggered. I just changed gears quickly. In Talking Body, I interviewed a woman and she calls herself fat. And that was another big trigger word. I'm like, I would never say like, I am a fat white woman, like never, even though I thought it in my head, but she uses it as like a neutral word. I'm Black, I'm fat, no, she's mixed. I'm mixed, I'm fat. And there's one other word she used. And I just said, I can't even go there. So it's interesting how these words like really trigger us.
Well, I mean, we've been taught to be fat phobic. I mean, since literal birth. I mean, it's like there's never been a moment where that word was associated with praise, with like worth and value. It was dehumanizing. It was shaming. I mean, it was every kind of insult you could imagine calling someone fat. And it's been really beautiful to see that word be redefined now through the body positive movement to not have so much stigma, I guess, behind it. And it's still triggering because we grew up during, I mean, every diet you could imagine, and everything was lose the fat, low fat, like fat was a villain, fat was bad. And oh my gosh, it is. It's so triggering. And yet it's kind of like, I think about, this is not related, but related. Like when I think about emotions and the rainbow of emotions, and we want to attach morality to emotions. Like we want to say, well, if you feel anger or anxiety or stress, then that's bad. But if you feel happiness and joy and peace, then that's good. And all of a sudden we have this category of good and bad, rather than it just being, oh, the human experience is that we experience a range of different emotions. In the same way, there is a range of different body types, and some are fat, some are skinny, some are big, some are small, some are tall, some are short. And if we can take away the morality of any of those things being good or bad, like what we know of as skinny is good, fat is bad. But like you said, if we take that to neutral, man, I mean, that's like really powerful.
It's true. It's I'm glad you brought that up. The neutral, where when this woman was saying she calls herself mixed fat chick, that's like her handle.
Yeah.
All those words are very neutral to her. And I thought, geez, how do you get to neutral? I don't even know how you get there.
Yeah. You know, to me, I would say that I've really gotten to that place of neutrality, and it's something that I work on every day with my body, because my body has changed so much in its weight. Even in the past year, I've put on weight. I've dropped a little bit of weight. I've gained the weight back, like everything in between. And for me, it's like, can I look at my body the same way as I would 20 pounds lighter, or the same way that I would look at my body? Can I look at it 20 pounds heavier in that same neutrality of it's worthy of being seen? It's worthy of love and belonging. Now, that doesn't mean that I might not want to lose some weight. That doesn't mean that I want to increase my health, my vitality, my ability to work out harder, to get stronger. Like, I love working out. I love sweating. And I just love the idea of like feeling lighter in my body so that I can do the things that bring me joy, do the things that I love. But it's not motivated from that place of shame, I guess. It's more like, how can I feel even better than I feel now? And to me, it starts from that neutral place of, can I accept this body? And then in that acceptance, how do I want to treat her? How do I want to nourish her? How do I want to love her? How do I want to move her? And that's a whole different conversation than like trying to beat your body in submission and punish her and control her, which I've done years of that as well. It's freaking miserable. It's not fun.
It really is. It really is. So I love the way you explain that. And this is why I love being your friend. One of the reasons of many, because you really do embody that. Like you walk the talk. I see you doing that.
Yeah.
And so I feel like that rubs off on me, which is really good as well. Like, how do I want to move my body? That was a question I've never asked before I started working with you and being your friend. So it makes a big difference.
It is powerful to think of it like, am I doing this from love or am I doing this for love? And that alone is like life-changing to me, that question. Am I doing this from love or am I doing this for love? Because you can want to change your body to be more lovable in your mind, to be more successful, to be more accepted, or you can do it from love, where you go, if I really, really loved myself, I would want to treat myself and my body with the best food, the best movement, not in a controlling way. Cause like I love my chocolate. I love my nachos. I love all like the delicious things, wine and all that. But it's like, like from love means I don't eat when I'm sad, right? It's like I attend to those emotions. When I love myself, I'm not going to overdrink or overeat to meet some mental emotional need that I might have. I'm conscious and aware of that. Now I still might eat all the delicious things that I want to eat, but I'm conscious of it. I'm aware of it. And, when I think about body confidence, it really is like coming from that place of love. Like, how would I stand if I were confident? How would I show up if I felt confident in my skin? And I think like for you, you're on stage or podcasts or summits or whatever, now that we're all virtual now, way more than I am. And I'm curious, like, because I know you've got to feel confident when you're on stage. Like when I see you, I mean, this is like your place, like you just dominate the stage. And I know that just recently you did your what was the big thing you did in Franklin at the Franklin Theater?
Entrepreneur experience.
Yeah. So you were literally on stage, but it was all virtual. And I know that you were like going shopping and getting clothes and getting ready for all that. Like, how do you get into the mindset, even if you're like not loving your body in the moment? How do you get to that place of confidence?
So there's two things. The first thing is, no matter how I feel about my body, if my weight is up and I'm feeling insecure, I'm going to do everything I can to feel good on stage. Yeah. So I'm not just going to be like, my weight's up, screw it. I'm just going to get on stage and just do my very best. I'm like, no. I'm going to set myself up to feel really good. So I hire a stylist, that's a good friend of mine, and I pick out clothes that I'm excited about and I love. Do I wish the clothes were a smaller size? I do. But in that moment, I just said, no, this feels good. It feels fun. I want to wear this. So I make sure that my outfits on stage are something that I'm going to feel good in. So I make the effort. And then also when I get up on stage, just like when I'm in the shower with Hobie, in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, I am sure my thighs look big right now. There is that moment. Like, I hope they don't pan my whole body the whole time on stage. Right. But then that happens. It's always there. It's like right here. Yeah. But then I think, wait a second. I am not up here to think of my thighs. I am up here because I genuinely want to serve my audience. I have something valuable that can help their life. Let's focus on them instead of me. So in those moments, I genuinely remind myself, this is not all about me. And most people don't even give a crap about my thighs. This is about me showing up. They put their time and effort and trust into me. I'm going to show up. So the thighs and how I feel about my body, it just goes in the back. Like, I hear you. I know I'm here to serve. And so that is how I kind of navigate through that.
Okay. I want to touch on both of these because they're so profound to me. And the first one being really simplistic, because I know that for me, like for so many years in my closet, I had like my fat clothes and my skinny clothes. And I would just have these skinny clothes in my closet that would make me feel like a total loser, that I couldn't fit into them. It was like, one day I'll lose the weight and I'll like be able to wear these clothes again. And then I had the clothes that would, fit my body at the time. And so often I would try to like squeeze into the quote unquote skinny clothes, and they would be like tight around my waist. I would have like a muffin top. I would have like all the things that didn't feel good. And I would be literally so self-conscious, I couldn't even function. Like my brain would be so hyper-focused on
Yes.
myself because I was uncomfortable. Like I was like physically,
You couldn't breathe.
I couldn't breathe.
Yeah.
Like it was so tight, or like freaking Spanx, forget it. Like I'm here to tell
don't even
you,
get me started.
I mean, I love them and I hate them. You know what I mean? It's just,
I know.
it's a whole thing. I actually don't hardly ever wear them now, but that feeling of being like squished and held in, talk about like this whole idea of having to be small. But
Yeah.
I think that one of the beautiful things that you were just sharing is that like you purchased clothes that fit your body at this weight.
Yeah. Yes, I did.
That's big.
I had to buy, I had.
That's big.
There's that word again. No pun intended.
Yeah.
I had to wear a bigger size jeans for this last event I did in December. I went up a size in jacket. And this is after like working really hard to get this weight off. So it was, and I had been in yoga pants, probably part of the problem, yoga pants and sweatshirts for months leading up to that event because we weren't going anywhere, especially in California. We really weren't going anywhere. So I had to get bigger sizes. But then I thought, exactly what you said, I'm not going to squeeze in something for 2 days. I'm going to feel uncomfortable.
Right.
And so that made a huge difference. The clothes fit. And when the clothes fit, you can take a breath, literally and figuratively, like it's okay. It's okay.
It feels
so that
amazing.
Was a huge thing.
Well,
it felt good.
Even like bra and underwear. Like I know for me, that's
Yes.
been a big thing where I'll like suffer through and wear like old underwear or bras that are too tight around the waist, like the band. Yeah. And it's like, oh, I just feel like I'm being suffocated because I cannot breathe. And it's like, just buy the size 40 band and just be done with it. Like, I'm sorry, you can't fit into the size 36 or 34, but who cares? And the minute I did that, I was like, oh, the ladies can breathe. Like, thank God, you know? And I automatically felt more confident just because I wasn't hyper aware that I was like trying to squeeze myself into something that was too small.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
Yeah.
It's not a constant reminder that this is too tight.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like your focus can go on what you were talking about, which is serving. Yeah. And I remember that was a big Tony Robbins thing. And I don't know if this is like, you know, burned in your memory from working with him, but I remember him always saying like the quickest way to get out of depression or anxiety is to put your focus on someone else. Like when you can take it from, I'm, you know, so feeling of shame and so hyper focused on the fact that something is wrong with me and woe is me and self-pity, to how can I show up and serve? Instantly, like your posture changes, you have purpose, you have meaning, and you're there to really be a support to other people. You don't have time or space to be self-loathing. And I think that that is something that we don't talk about in the body confidence, body positivity world enough, is that just by shifting your focus into service, you end up like feeling more powerful and more confident just because of that alone. It's really cool.
It's 100% right. It's so true. When I switch my focus to be of service to other people, all of a sudden two things. I'm not even thinking of my thighs, but two, even if I were, it's just not that important anymore. Right. There's, you know, I speak to women entrepreneurs. There's a woman right out there she's struggling and she needs help with her business. And I have the answers. That's where I should focus. You know, Mary, it's sad to say this, but I've often thought of this. I joke, but I think I'm dead serious. I feel like if I took all the times I was thinking of my thighs and my arms and my stomach and things not fitting and the pictures that I don't like and the angle, all the thoughts, if I took all those away, I think I might be able to run the world. I think I could maybe be president of the United States because of the fact that I can't even imagine where my brain would go, the creativity I would have, the things I would think about. Because I think about my weight so much. I'm not proud of that. I don't like that.
That is like an insane statement. And that just is hitting me on a whole new level right now, because as you know, I'm doing all of this work with Dr. Joe Dispenza, getting ready to do his advanced training. And he's all about being addicted to the emotions of our past. And I
Ooh.
just think about this idea of being addicted to the story of self-hatred, being addicted to the emotion of shame, being addicted to that self-loathing, that judgment, that criticism, and that it is addictive. Like, because I know I've been there where your brain just feeds on itself and just takes up so much energy. And he talks about when you can unmemorize those emotions that you're addicted to, you liberate energy. And then you have new energy to create the life that you really want to live. Like when you're stuck in all of that self-hatred, you don't have the energy bandwidth to think about thriving, to think about having a healthy life, to think about just being so full of life. You're focused on how gross and disgusting and ugly you feel.
Yeah.
And so you're only going to feel worse and more ugly and have more hatred. Like it's that hamster wheel you can't get off on. And so
Yes.
I'm just thinking like how cool to think about if you liberated that energy, what would be possible? Like infinite possibilities.
I know. Infinite possibilities, infinite
Ooh, girl.
possibilities. And, I didn't even, you talk about being addicted to these emotions, and I didn't even think of that. And I think this work you're doing is so important because, my thought was, what am I addicted to? What emotion am I addicted to? And I don't know that part yet because I
Yeah.
just heard you say it. So I'd have to think about it. But I do know my identity is tied into, I've always struggled with my weight.
Yes.
That line rolls off my tongue like I've said it a million times because I probably have. And it's a way to connect with people. It's a way to kind of tell people who I am and what I'm about. I've always struggled with my weight since I've been a little girl.
And that becomes your reality. You will always struggle with your weight because you are someone who always struggles with their weight. You could not live a different reality. That's that whole saying of like your personality creates your personal reality. And I want to say that again because I feel like it's so good. Your personality creates your personal reality. So who you identify as, I'm somebody who struggles with weight, then your personal reality is you're going to be somebody who struggles with your weight. You can't be somebody who's free from that.
My truth.
I mean, right? Isn't it just like, it's mind blowing to me. My story is the emotion that I'm addicted to is overwhelm. And when I am addicted to feeling overwhelmed and every morning I wake up feeling overwhelmed, then I can overeat. I can not move my body because I got to get in and straight to work. I sacrifice self-care when I'm in overwhelm, all the things that are the antithesis of what I really want for my life that are the byproduct of being addicted to being overwhelmed and that being part of my identity. Because in the same way, I'm always like, God, I'm just so overwhelmed. I'm so overwhelmed. It's like, whoa, wait a second. What if that weren't true? What if I didn't have to identify with that emotion as part of my everyday experience? So I think about that.
Like what would be possible?
What would be possible? And on the flip side, if you think about like an addiction that you'd want to have, like a healthy addiction towards more like positive, whatever, think about being addicted to being full of life or feeling confident in your skin from that neutral place. Like no matter what would come from that? What personal reality would come from being in a total state of body confidence? Not there yet, but it's kind of cool to think about.
Yes. It's possible. It is possible.
Oh, girl, I want to just keep like going, but this is a beautiful place to break because I think that that's the invitation. It's just to be willing to look at this stuff in all of our imperfection and still show up and be willing to be seen every day, over and over and over again. Well, sweet friend, where can people find you, connect with you, get into your regular podcast and Talking Body? Where do they go?
I appreciate you asking. So to continue this conversation and get on that journey with me as well, that is Talking Body. It's just 12 episodes. It's a limited time series. You can find it on Spotify and iTunes and wherever you listen to your podcast. And then my marketing one is Online Marketing Made Easy. So thanks so much for asking.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Thank you for being
Thank you,
here.
sweet friend.
And
I love you so much. I learn from you and I love spending time with you. I wish we could record our chats over wine because these are the chats we have.
Like, this is literally what we talk
be
about.
Their own podcast. Yes.
Hey, there you go.
Thank you so much.
Limited series right there.
Right.
Oh.
Just wine and cheese conversations with Amy and Mary. I believe they'd be interesting.
I feel like they would.
Thanks. We might
love you,
be full
girl.
of ourselves, but maybe.
Hey,
love you. Take care.
All right. Bye. Hey, y'all. Thanks so much for listening to today's episode. I hope you got some amazing nuggets to take home and start implementing into your life. And if you're looking for the show notes and links, head on over to maryhyatt.com/show. And if you loved it, why not bring your girlfriends along this journey of becoming fully alive with you? Just give a quick share of this episode to your social channels and enjoy those debriefing convos with your besties. Thanks again, and I can't wait to connect with you next week.